welcome back to the Brantley Method free game interview series. We've got a very special guest today, Chania Ray, one of the top players at West Virginia and in the recent history of West Virginia. But more than just a basketball player, she's had recent success, off the court. She's had success in her life after the game of basketball, and I'm excited to talk to her a little bit about the transition from, playing the game at a young age, playing at the college level, when the game ended for her, and that transition to the entrepreneurial side. So without further ado, Chania, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So talk to me a little bit about, I guess the place I want to start first is, a lot of people saw what you did on the court, and they saw, the success on the court. But one of the things that I think for athletes in general, not just basketball players, but one of the things that is not often talked about is the countless hours behind the scenes to get to that point. So talk to me about your journey growing up, playing the game of basketball, falling in love with the game of basketball, and the work that went into it.
Okay, so I was around basketball my whole life. My mother is literally a gym rat. She played basketball when she was younger. She ran like every AAU tournament. She played in high school. She had kids, so she didn't take her talents further. But just being around the gym, she kind of, it's weird to say this, but she kind of like lived her dream through us. So she wanted, she made us all play basketball. And, I didn't feel like, my other siblings kind of, didn't take basketball as serious. Well, my two little sisters, because they felt forced. But for me, it was, something that I grew to love. And just being around the gym all the time, being in the gym all hours of the day, just because it's a different type of community and family there. So my mom, knowing that, we could all run around the gym, play basketball, do whatever, she knew she didn't have to worry too much. So, it started there. And from there, I was on, AAU teams, played every AAU season, multiple teams, just as active as I could be. And then once I got to high school, I was going to go to my local public high school, but I actually started getting recruited by private schools. And, once I realized that, wow, these private schools are interested in me, which are, they recruit people. So, you get a scholarship to go to private schools. And that's where I really found out that, like, dang, like, this is really my thing. Like, I'm getting recruited. They don't recruit people from my area. Like, they found me. So then I went to a private high school, and from there it kind of just skyrocketed, and I just, was getting looks left and right, and, training with the best trainers. I didn't really start training until my last year of high school, when I was about to go to college, but I would always be in the gym on my own. It was just something that I knew, like, it wasn't a question that I had to put in extra work. And, some things I just think you can't teach. And for me, my work ethic was something that you couldn't teach. Like, it was natural for me. And it was really just all I knew. So yeah, that's kind of my journey.
Right. So the work ethic was there. You knew you had to put the work in. Mom kind of instilled that start of basketball, and just being around all the time. But at what point did you really just fall in love with the game? At what point did it become, Chania's journey and not your mom's journey?
Yeah. So I would say, my freshman, sophomore year of high school, where I was like, you know what, like, this is it. This is my future. I was taking a train to school at 13, 14 years. Well, I was 14 in high school, 14 years old, taking a train to school at 5 a.m, getting to school at 7:30. Like, it was something that it was just my thing. I was like, this is what I love. So why not make sacrifices now? I didn't care about friends. I didn't care about, staying local and going to my local high school and having friends and being close to my friends and having that social aspect. Like, I was willing to get up at 5 a.m, get to school by 7:30, and then after school, after practice, take the train back home from 8 p.m, getting back home at 10, and doing the same thing every day. And that's where I really fell in love with it, because if you don't love it, then, you're not willing to do those type of things. So yeah.
Absolutely. And that love and that dedication, that commitment to, riding the train at early hours and, putting in the additional work turned into recruitment and high level recruitment. So obviously, as you navigate the recruiting process, one of the hardest things and one of the biggest things that we try and do is find the right fit, right? And initially you chose Florida State University. Talk to me a little bit about, the number one, the recruiting process and what led you to choose Florida State. And then number two, going through recruiting a second time and ending up at West Virginia.
I'm not gonna lie, the recruiting process is overwhelming, especially when you don't have any family members or anyone that could kind of walk you through the ropes. So for me, I was the first one that really went to a big college in my family, the first one that got a scholarship, the first one that has graduated. So it was really, really, really overwhelming. I had offers from a lot of schools. So Florida State kind of came about because, they recruited me. At the time, they were top 10 in the country, really, really good. This was the year after the men's team won their national championship, the football team. I forget, what year did I graduate, 2014? I feel like it's so long ago. It was like yesterday. But so we were top 10. They were top 10 in the country. And when I went on my visit there, mind you, I hadn't taken any prior visits, which was kind of a mistake on my end. I've been to camps, went to elite camps, saw the campus, at other schools. They gave me, the unofficial runaround when I went to other campuses for camps and stuff. But my first official visit was actually at Florida State. And so when I got there, they're telling me all the amazing things they could do for me. And, this is in Florida. So I'm from Virginia, it sounds so awesome to go 14 hours away from your mom because it's like, I was sheltered. My mom was really strict. And she obviously was more strict on me than my other siblings because she saw the potential there. So, the idea of just going far was like, wow, like it's not too far where it's not on the West Coast, but it's down south. So when I went there, the coach giving me the runaround, telling me all the amazing things that she can do. She can see me fit in the system and this and that. And I committed on spot. And like I said, I hadn't taken any official visits before that. And I think that was one of the mistakes I had made because I didn't have that guidance to really tell me like, take advantage of these 5 visits. I don't know if it's the same now, but take advantage of these 5 visits that you have because, they're here. They're going to tell you, they can do this, this, and that for you. That's why you're taking an official visit in the first place. So I kind of just made a mistake. Don't get me wrong. I love the school. I love their program. I loved, just everything as a whole, the organization, but everything's not what they tell you it's going to be once you get there. My mom also had some health issues, so me being 14 hours away and the cheapest flights to Tallahassee at the time were $1,000, it just wasn't the ideal situation for me. And being young and not having the experience or anything else or anyone else to kind of guide me, I didn't think about all the aspects that could play into me choosing the school and what was convenient and everything like that. So it's definitely overwhelming. And if I really recommend for all young student athletes to take all 5 of their visits and just, you got to know going into it, like they're going to tell you what you want to hear. That's the point of, a coach recruiting. That's how they get paid. But yeah, other than that, I pretty much had a smooth recruiting, ride. I didn't have anything weird or anything normal to school, just reaching out. But yeah, my mistake was just committing on spot and not taking advantage of my 5 visits.
So you went through that process. You realized, okay, you know what? I don't want to be 14 hours from home. I don't want to, there's different things here that don't align with, what's best or what's the right fit for Chania.
Yeah.
You found the right fit in West Virginia. Talk to me a little bit about, the time spent in Morgantown and, how you grew to be a part of the community there, you guys did some phenomenal things there. You did some phenomenal things there. Talk to me a little bit about your experience there.
West Virginia is a different place. I could say that, but it was, transferring. My goal was to go somewhere, close enough to home where I could be there for my mother and she could come see my games, and also go somewhere where there's competition. So, West Virginia's in the Big 12. We play Texas, Baylor. We play the top of the top schools. So I wanted to go somewhere that I would be able to compete with the top of the top players. So I went to West Virginia because it was the right fit for me. They didn't have a point guard at the time. Actually, being that I had to sit out a year, the point guard that was there was leaving, graduating. So it was just like the perfect opportunity, a perfect time. And while I was there, everything was good. I was strictly focused on basketball, strict student athlete. I didn't do the whole partying thing. I didn't go out. I didn't experience the normal college student life. But the program was great. The facilities were great. It does get hard when, our conference is pretty interesting. So we're the only school that's considered northern, but it's not northern. But, we play Texas. Every school in our conference is Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas. There's like 3 schools in Texas. There's, I think that's pretty much it for our conference. But, you have to get used to the 3-hour plane trips, coming back, getting back at 3, 4 in the morning, then having to get up for class at 7 to 8. So, that was one of the different things from Florida State. But I enjoyed my time there. It was the right fit for me. I definitely made the right decision the second time around, and I knew that, I had to, because you can't transfer multiple times. People do get away with it, but there has to be an underlying circumstance. So yeah, it was cool. I mean, yeah, I was there for what I was there for, and I did just that. So
Right. So basketball being a huge piece of your life from, dating back to pre-high school, right? And you go into high school where you're catching the train, early mornings, you're staying late for late night workouts. Basketball is a huge piece of the puzzle. At what point did you start to have the realization that at some point in the relatively near future, basketball, the air was going to come out of the ball, and you'd have to transition to a life without that, and where basketball isn't the biggest piece of your life? At what point did that really settle in, or at what point did you start to think about that?
So I'm gonna be real with you. I'm a realist, and my whole time through college, I knew what I was doing was great, and I was, making history, putting the numbers up, whatever. But I also knew that the WNBA needed a lot of work, and I knew that overseas wasn't for me. And I say that because, I'm a huge family person. I basically raised my niece. So the idea of, that was another reason why I transferred from Florida State, was because it was too far. So the idea of going to another country and being tied into a contract, and then obviously talking to people that I knew that had that experience in the overseas, leagues and fields, like, there's some contracts out there where if you don't perform, you don't get paid. And, for me, I had a bigger goal in mind of what I really wanted to do, that it wasn't even worth me wasting my time and going somewhere that I knew, one, I wouldn't be happy. I'm too much of a family person to be away from my family that long. So that was out of the question for me from the jump. And then with the WNBA, I mean, really, there's 12, 14 teams. You have round one, you have top 5 draft picks, top 10 draft picks that get waived from teams. So it's crazy to think that way, but, reality has to set in at one point to be like, okay, like, yeah, I did great. I did put up numbers. I did do this and that. But if these top 5, top 10 draft picks they're getting away from teams, like, at some point I have to have a backup plan. So basketball for me was just another option. So if it worked out, if the opportunity came, if it was the right fit and the right opportunity, take advantage of it, because you only get the opportunity once. But that's not what you're banking on, because, I had a bigger goal in mind. Like, I knew what I really wanted to do in the long run, and why not start now? So, it was one of those things where I never thought too much about basketball after college. But definitely if the opportunity was there, I go forth with it. But it was, it was what it was. And being a realist and being real with yourself, and, you know, sometimes you just got to take things for what they are.
Yeah, no, no doubt, no doubt. And I'll tell you, me being somebody who works with players in the player development side of things, also, personal development and helping them navigate through their careers and through, those different steps and stages. We talk about being a realist, having goals, right? You're gonna have goals, you're gonna have dreams, but also understanding, what's realistic, setting those realistic goals and then attacking them, step by step. But one of the things that we talk about a lot is something I like to call the transfer of train. It's the ability to take, what you've learned and apply it in real settings. So talk to me a little bit about, how you took the skill set that you learned through your decade or so of playing basketball, and have utilized that and applied that to your life as an entrepreneur, and to, making that step. You identified, hey, you know what? I know that this is something I want to do. What's that next stage, and how you take everything you've learned and everything you've worked for, and you don't have to look at it like, man, that was a waste of time. You look at it like, look, all those things have made me better at this. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, so at all levels of basketball, any sport, anything you're involved in, you're taught, a few of the main concepts, which are discipline, hard work ethic, leadership. And I think, those things there's obviously a few more, but those things apply to all aspects of your life. And, you can't really, if you apply them in one space and not the other, and you're never going to be successful. So I always lived by, those things in every aspect of my life. So I knew, venturing off into entrepreneurship and, trying to really go with my heart and what I wanted. I knew that, one, it's not going to be easy. You have to work for it. Like, that's with anything. Like, you can't just, people are naturally talented. They naturally have certain gifts. Hey, cut it out. They naturally have certain gifts, but, there's people that work hard and they're going to be better than you. So you have to continue to work hard. Like, you can't just let your, natural ability take over. So that was one thing. And then work ethic, like, I think work ethic applies to everyone at all ages. Like, if you have no work ethic, you're never going to be successful. And then, just the leadership aspect as a point guard, like, everything always fell on me. When the shot clock was running down, like, I had the ball in my hands to make a decision when, everything. So, that was one of the main things I translated in entrepreneurship is, the ball's in my hands. I can make this go this way. I can make it go that way. Like, wherever my business goes, it's going to be up to me, because I have full control over it. Now, no, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be given to me. It's not going to be handed to me. But at the same time, I control my destiny. And I think that's the biggest thing is, people don't understand that no matter what you do, like, it applies to every aspect of your life. And I actually worked at a law firm after college basketball because I thought I wanted to do the whole law school thing. And I came to quick realization that wasn't for me. So I was like, you know what, like, I grew up and my mindset wasn't, a 9-to-5 type of person. My mindset was whatever you put in, you're going to get out. And I mean, so I knew, like, okay, you can do something on your own. Like, you can be a boss, you can whatever. So yeah, I mean, literally everything you're taught in sports and just anything, like, it applies to everything. And you have to apply it, and you have to know that nothing's going to be easy. You have to start somewhere, and ultimately, where you end up is up to you.
No doubt, no doubt. And you talked a little bit about, being that point guard on the court, and then being that point guard in life and in entrepreneurship. And obviously, we all have struggles and hurdles within entrepreneurship. You can't show me an entrepreneur that everything's just been, smooth sailing. And without going into specifics of some of your obstacles and hurdles, talk to me a little bit about how, the adversity that you faced on the court prepared you to overcome, and to, those obstacles and hurdles when they hit you as an entrepreneur. It's not something that's devastating that you're like, okay, I quit, because you're used to experiencing adversity on the court and how that prepared you for those situations.
Yeah. So with anything, there's always going to be someone better than you. There's always going to be someone, you know, taller, stronger, you know, got better moves, whatever the case may be. So with entrepreneurship, there's always going to be a business that was established longer than yours. There's always going to be a business that has been around longer than yours. There's always going to be a business that has more connections and more outlet than yours will. So, you know, it's about persistence, and it's about, you know, staying true to yourself, because at the end of the day, you control how you feel, you control your emotions, you control your destiny. So just knowing, you know, because I did face adversities with college basketball, I did face injuries, I did face, you know, things that kind of put me back more than others, where people could work on their skill and I couldn't because I was hurt, or, you know, someone had the tools to do certain things because they were, you know, more athletic, they were taller, they were whatever the case may be. You know, it was just that thought with entrepreneurship is like, okay, you have to know that there's millions of people doing what you're doing, but what's going to separate you from what you got going on and what other people have going on. So until I figured out that, and until I, you know, made my own identity, was when I was like, okay, like, you know, it's slow, it's moving. Okay, I might have something. When you reach that point, it just makes you want to go even harder. But like anything, when you're starting anything, you have a lot of doubt, and it's definitely hard to, you know, see the bigger picture, because you want stuff to happen like this. In the world we live in, it doesn't happen like that. So um, yeah, you just gotta stay persistent and stay true to yourself, because you're gonna have tons of people trying to tell you that you can't do it. So
No doubt.
that's the biggest thing for me.
No doubt. And it's like, you know, we don't think about it this way, but with us being athletes, you know, being an entrepreneur, you think about you're playing a road game all the time, right? Like you're gonna have those people that are cheering for you to be unsuccessful, and you know, being an athlete and experiencing that and kind of welcoming that, right? Like, okay, yeah, I like the booze because that means I'm doing something good, right? So, you know, being able to relate and transcend from, you know, on the court success to off the court success is awesome. You briefly alluded to the lack of opportunities for a woman post college basketball, and how, you know, that was something that you started to be a realist and started to identify that and know that, hey, you know what, there's a big chance that this may not happen, so let me start to look in other directions. When you think about the opportunities that exist for women in basketball, you know, post college, or the lack of those opportunities, what are some things that you, if in a blue sky world, would change or would add to give more opportunity for young girls or young women at the end of their collegiate career?
Definitely, you know, more, you know, the NBA, the men, they have NBA, they have the G League, they have all these other, you know, avenues. For a woman, it's either WNBA or overseas. And, you know, that's not fair. Like, we shouldn't have to go to another country to make more money than our country will pay us. Like, so one thing I would say is, if it's not adding more teams to the WNBA, it's adding another league where we can showcase our skills and showcase that, hey, we may not have been talked about in college or whatever, but we got game too. Like, you know, there's only certain schools you go to that you're going to get talked about. Like, that's the reality of it. And so one thing I would definitely do is add more teams. And then, you know, I feel like we need more education as far as, you know, realistic with these athletes. Like, everyone has this dream of playing in the WNBA and being a professional women's basketball player, but there's the opportunity is not there for you. You have these women that they're 35, 40 years old that are on these same teams, and they don't want to, you know, get rid of them. But there's so much young talent that is there that needs to be on a team. And it's just like, it's just crazy to me. So either, you know, finding a way to kind of filter out the vets, you know, that aren't getting the job done, they just have a name at this point, and adding this young talent, or there's just so many different avenues that you know, they can go. And I think they definitely started with the salary. I think this year started with that, but it's kind of devastating also to know, like, you know, for me, it wasn't even just about not having a skill or whatever case may be. I wasn't even interested in going to a training camp because I knew that if I was successful at, you know, what I had in mind as far as my entrepreneurship, I would be making more money anyways than I would in the WNBA. Like the average rookie salary, I think is like around $30,000-$40,000, and that's nothing. Like that's crazy. So they definitely started with the salary cap and stuff, but you know, in a perfect world, I would definitely add more teams to WNBA and just more education. You know, if this doesn't work out for you, you know, we can give you this opportunity, you know, we can do this for you, or if this is something we can help get you off your feet, because we're not educated on that. So many of my friends that I play basketball with are doing nothing right now, and we stopped playing 2-3 years ago. So it's like we have nothing to build on our resume. We can't work a job because we have summer sessions. We can't do anything because we can't do internships because we have to be there for summer, fall, like everything. So just kind of building some type of structure for, you know, people or women specifically, that, you know, there is a 90% chance that you're not going to play in the WNBA. So, you know, here's kind of structure and something we can give you to kind of be better prepared after college. So that's definitely a couple things that I would do in a picture perfect world.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. I mean, you touched on a lot of the key issues, but not only did you bring forth issues, you came with some solid solutions. Do you see yourself? I mean, there's a lot of knowledge there. Obviously, there's a lot of experience. Do you see yourself transitioning into the role of coach at some point?
I'm gonna be real with you. I don't have the patience for coaching. You know, some of my teammates, the way they would talk to my coach, I'm looking at them like, girl, I would, like, if I was in that position, but I would definitely, you know, contribute in the way of training and giving back my knowledge and, you know, things I wish I would have done sooner as far as, you know, working on certain aspects of my game. I would definitely give back in that way of, you know, training. But coaching, I won't say there's absolutely no chance that I would do it, but right now, you know, the way my temper is and like the way these kids are growing up and the way they're talking and how grown they are, there's a slim to none chance that I'm gonna be coaching.
I feel you. I feel you. Yeah, definitely. You know, it takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of, you know, a lot of woosah, a lot of meditation to work with youth these days. But, you know, without a doubt, I mean, the knowledge that you've acquired and the way that you know, not only you know it, but there's a lot of people that know it that've never experienced it. And one of the things that I think a lot of, especially on the women's side, a lot of our young girls need somebody to have that conversation with them to say, hey, I was where you're on your way to. And that right turn versus that left is the reason why I'm successful. Or, you know, if I would have done this versus doing that, I could have gone a little bit further. And that carries a lot of weight. And I think that, you know, you talked about age gaps, right? So, you know, you're going to be able to relate and connect a whole lot better than that, you know, 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old coach can connect with that girl because they can't really relate, right? They look at them and they're like, yeah, of course that happened to you in college because you're 40 years older than me, right? Whereas, you know, you can have that conversation and they look at you and say, okay, you know what, Chania said it, so, you know, it must be true. I'm going to listen to her. So don't 100% cross off the, you know.
I'm not. I already had like you know, something in mind where I wanted, what's up? Where I wanted to kind of get back in the way of, you know, just talking to young teams and, you know, stuff like that. So some type of motivational player that experienced the stuff, but yeah, coaching, I don't know.
All right, so you touched on wanting to give back and wanting to be that motivational voice, and wanting to connect with those young girls. So, you know, that's a perfect segue for the way I want to end this, which is, you know, you talked about 13, 14-year-old Chania getting on the train every day to travel to school, you know, traveling a great distance, right? You talked about 13, 14-year-old Chania training and putting in that work and that commitment and that dedication to being the best version of yourself long term. Imagine that we're sitting here talking and you have an opportunity to talk to 13, 14-year-old Chania, because that's really who I want to see this and I want to learn from you. So imagine you're talking back to the little girl that's about to get on that train, knowing what you know now, experiencing the journey the way that you've experienced it and going the way that you've gone. What's that piece of advice, or what are a couple things that you would say to 13, 14-year-old Chania to prepare her for what she's going to face coming up?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and obviously the most cliche thing, is it's going to be worth it in the end. And whether that's, basketball related, whether that's your life, whether that's whatever else you venture into, like everything you're doing now is going to play a huge part in, what you do after. And so, if I could tell a 13, 14-year-old Shania anything, it would be like, keep pushing, people notice it, people see it, because I didn't get a lot of recognition, throughout high school and college. Yeah, the numbers speak for themselves, but it's kind of devastating when you're putting in the work, you're doing everything right, you're working hard, nobody's outworking you, but you're not getting that recognition that you deserve. So do it for you and do it because it's the right thing to do and it's going to pay off. And if you can push yourself through anything, if you have a good work ethic, if you're a leader, if you have the right head on your shoulders, like I promise you, like you'll be good at anything you do. You'll be successful at anything you do. And that's the biggest thing I got from just, growing up and playing sports and, doing the things I've done.
Awesome. I truly think that somebody's going to see this and you're going to be the reason why they don't give up. You're going to be the reason why they lock in and dial in and push harder, understanding that what, maybe I haven't been noticed or the work that I've done hasn't been noticed yet, but hearing those words from Chania gave me the fuel to keep going. So I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this, because ultimately your experiences and your journey is unique to you, right? But that experience and that journey can be the roadmap for a young girl that looks up to you, or a young girl that wants to have that same success that you had, or wants to go one step further and be that WNBA superstar. So without a doubt, your time is more appreciated than you know. Start thinking about your career in coaching, because I think you got it deep down inside of you. I think it's there.
We'll see. I mean, I'm 24. I think I got a few more years till I, but we'll see.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.